Oh, welcome everyone. So great. A bunch of you are still joining us. I'll just start with wanting to see where you're all coming from and just say hello. So we'll be using the chat feature a lot today. So if you see in the bottom of your screen, there's the little chat box. And you can click on that. And then the first thing I want you to do is you'll see a little blue bar and make sure that's you click on that and click panelists and attendees. Okay, so you'll scroll down panelists and attendees. Katrine, you got the idea. Hi from sunny San Diego. Yeah, so let us know. Columbia, Missouri. Hi, Heather. Yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from. Karen from San Francisco. Awesome. You guys get the idea. Cool. So for those of you that don't know me, I'll just give a brief introduction, share some housekeeping notes and how this is going to work today. And then we'll just open it up. This is really exciting. This is the first ever members only exclusive Q&A that we've done. So we're in it together. We'll see how it goes. And this is really your time. So anything that you want to know, a bunch of you sent a ton of questions to me beforehand, but I want to prioritize all of you that are here live today. So if you're like, I don't have a question off the cuff, I can start with some of those and we'll go back and forth. But yeah, whatever you want to know, this is your time. It can be about anything. You know, Four Sigmatic is a brand, about ingredients, about functional mushrooms, about dosage, whatever is welcome. And yeah, if we haven't met before, my name is Danielle. I am our national educator. I'm a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild and Holistic Nutritionist. I'm also the instructor of mycology at the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism, which is a wonderful herb school in right outside of Boulder, Colorado. And I am tuning in from Venice, California. Our Four Sigmatic HQ is down the street. So I'm here in Venice today. And just a brief background of kind of what my specialty is so you can know which angle to ask me questions in. Prior to Four Sigmatic, I worked in clinical practice, one-on-one practice as an herbalist and nutritionist. And my practice was functional mushroom based. So I would create individual formulas for every person that would come see me. And the theme was, this might be familiar to some of you, the theme was, I have tried every practitioner under the sun, and you're my last resort, right? So what can you do for me? And what this brought was a lot of autoimmune conditions, a lot of chronic illness, a lot of, frankly, conditions that we didn't have a name for, right? So we don't have a name. We don't know what's going on with the person. And so it really helped shape my belief about the human body. And rather than, being stuck with, I have Lyme disease, or I have Crohn's disease, or I am this, I encourage us approaching the body from a symptom perspective. How are you feeling? Right? It's almost like if any of you have cut food allergens or food sensitivities out of your life, we know there's not really a lot of accurate tests for that. It's more, how are you feeling in the start? And then once you've adopted a protocol, how do you feel after? Right. And so that paying attention to the body is absolutely integral. Right. So we can go down that path, but I do have to mention for today's purposes that I am not your healthcare practitioner. So what that means is I can answer, questions about our ingredients and products and, all sorts of things like that. But if you do have a specific health concern, please try to ask it in a more generalized way so that I can address it without, I can't speak to your specific body or medications or conditions. So that's the housekeeping. I love the chat happening already. A few of you, Sandy, Patricia, Mary, a few others, just make sure if you hopped on a few minutes past the hour that you click on that drop down where it says panelists, and then change it to panelists and attendees. And that way everyone here can see what you're typing in. It's kind of fun. You guys get to chat with each other throughout. Okay. So today is open anything goes Q&A. And how it's going to work is the chat is available at all times. You can type in any questions you have to the chat, and I'll read them aloud and then answer them. But if you feel a little courageous and you feel like using your voice with your question, then you can raise your hand. So you'll see there's at the bottom of your screen, there's a raise hand feature. And if you raise your hand, it's kind of like class. I'm a teacher, so this is really fun. It works. I will allow you to talk, and your video won't be on, but you can just, through your voice, ask your question, and then everyone can hear you. Okay, cool. We also have, if you have, logistical questions, our team at Four Sigmatic is here with us kind of in the background today. So they can answer any questions you have in the chat too, that you might not need me to answer. Okay, cool. So Heather, I love it. You're already asking in the chat. The first question is, I recently got the cordyceps mix. So this is our mushroom elixir, right? With featuring cordyceps. And Heather, you got it to use as a pre-workout. How long before the workout should I drink my mix? Awesome question. Thanks for being brave and being our first question. So really with cordyceps, you'll feel a difference, right, in your body. It's one of the few natural medicines, options, allies that you can really feel within the typical range. And again, this is going to depend on your body, what else you ate that day, how stressed you are, but typically you'll feel it within 15 to 30 minutes. So if you want to take it pre-workout, which is traditionally how it has been used, right, where cordyceps gained its popularity in really the modern world, the last 30 years, was in the Olympic Games in 1991. And there was a team of female Olympians, and they broke 3 world records in a week. It was crazy. They were swimmers. And the industry came down on them and said, you must be doping. What's going on? How is it possible that you could break these world records? And it turns out they were using cordyceps. So, right, it got this reputation as the sports mushroom, endurance, right? That physical energy, while also being an adaptogen, right? So it doesn't just stimulate the system. It doesn't stimulate it all. It's actually creating an increased amount of oxygen in your system. There's a lot going on supporting our HPA axis and stress response. Amazing. It has an affinity for the lungs. So especially in swimmers, or if you're an athlete, right, we know our lungs are stressed when we exercise. It's an important stress, but our bodies are constantly working to bring us back into that equilibrium. So yeah, with the cordyceps, the one thing I would warn, so you can take it really, 15, 30 minutes before your workout to really feel it in your workout, but it can be, you'll notice such a difference that you might want to take it every time before a workout. And what I warn against is us needing to rely on any of our adaptogens, functional mushrooms, herbs to perform in a certain way. So actually, Heather, what I would recommend is after really feeling it, pre-workout, for the most kind of successful long-term results from cordyceps is actually taking it in recovery. So when you get back from the workout, taking it then and making that your routine, and you'll start to build endurance longer over a longer period of time, rather than you take it pre-workout just to really feel it, but then consistently in that recovery phase. Okay, I hope that helps. Sandy, what mushrooms and dosage for immune support, I think is what you're asking. Sandy, maybe if you're asking about a specific product, but I will just speak to this more generally. So what if the first part of it, what mushroom would I use for immune support? And the answer is there's about 600-700 functional mushrooms, which means mushrooms that have known studied benefit to the human body. And what's unique, all of them have several different constituents or compounds that lead to the benefits in our body. And the constituent that's common among all of our functional mushrooms is this complex sugar chain. They're called polysaccharides. And in mushrooms, we're going to get nerdy for a second. They're called 1,3 and 1,6 beta D glucans. Okay, what you can remember from these is that is the compound in our mushroom that is immune modulating. So if anyone's read Taro's first book, Healing Mushrooms, you'll remember that immune modulation, we refer to it as cruise control for your immune system, right? So what this does is there's this gas brake effect. So depending on the state of your body, if I, might be, let's say there's a change of season and I'm vulnerable and, I might be stressed, so my immune system is weaker, or my digestive health is off, so my immune system's weaker, because remember, so much of our immune cells live in our gut. I'm vulnerable. I could take, say, a reishi mushroom, and it would stimulate immune cells in my body. However, if one of my clients who has an autoimmune condition, which means there's overactive immune cells, there's too much immune activity happening, that individual could take the same exact reishi mushroom that I took, and it would actually suppress or downregulate immune cell activity. So depending on how your body is approaching that mushroom, there's going to be this cruise control action with your immune system. And that's the case with all of our functional mushrooms. This is why in the grocery store, if you're like, where are the functional mushrooms? It'll be in that aisle that says immune, right? Because they all have this in common, and yet they each have something else. They have other compounds that are adding to their unique benefits. It's almost like all of us have something in common, right? We all drink Four Sigmatic. We're all drinking adaptogens. We have these commonalities. That's like our mushrooms all being immune modulators. And yet we each bring something additional to the table, right? We each have our own career, our own family. You can think of the functional mushrooms like that. And then dosage, wonderful question. And this is with all of the herbs. It depends. It depends on your body. That said, there's a range. And so the range that we recommend, and that I personally recommend starting with, is on the very low end. If you're totally new, but to still have it be an effective dose, is 500 milligrams or half a gram. And then you can build up from there. So ideally, you take that starting 500 milligram dose for a couple days, maybe even a week, and then keep tuning into your body, right? Remember in the beginning, your body is your best teacher. It's going to tell you everything really. My goal always as a human is to help each of you connect more to your own body's messages, right? Because it's constantly communicating with us. It's like, how can we listen and understand what's going on, and then also have the tools to know how to support those symptoms. So 500 milligrams, you can build up on a really high end, and again, this depends slightly on the mushroom you're using, but 3 grams would be kind of a higher dose that I would stop at. Okay. You guys are so awesome. There's so much in here. All right. Jessica, any intentions on developing a decaf coffee so all of us caffeine sensitive people can still enjoy all the benefits that mushrooms provide? I'm with you, Jessica. I'm a total decaf lover. And I will just say that question is being taken to heart, and to keep your ears and eyes open for what we have coming down the pipeline. That said, remember that the products of ours with caffeine are only our coffee, and then our matcha and our focus shot, which has the guayusa. So the majority of our product line is caffeine free. And my favorite caffeine free alternative personally is the Focus Blend. So Jessica, if you haven't tried that yet, amazing. It has lion's mane and cordyceps. It has a really wonderful Ayurvedic herb called bacopa. It has cacao and blueberry and B12. It's just this beautiful powerhouse of caffeine-free, but focus and concentration supporting herbs and mushrooms in there. The other more common, and I have one right here, which is perfect. Does anyone know what this is that I'm holding before I give it away? This is a common coffee substitute. Let's see in the chat. Sid in Seattle, you rocked it. Yeah, so this is chaga. This is our chaga. And notice obliquus, wild, huh? This is a real chaga. We wild harvest ours from the largest birch forest in the world because chaga grows on birch trees. It's called the taiga forest in Siberia. And chaga was a long history of it being used as a coffee substitute, particularly in Scandinavia and in Finland, where all our founders are from. So it has this kind of bitter, earthy flavor to it. And the chaga elixir, there's like a visual component about drinking that warm morning cup of coffee. So making that chaga elixir is a great way to kind of feel like you're drinking a cup of coffee without any of the caffeine, while we don't have a decaf out on the market. Okay, cool. The chai is also great if you're a chai latte person. Most chai lattes have black tea. We add turkey tail and reishi instead. So it is also a caffeine-free morning option. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yeah, fun backstory. Okay, I'm an ADHD mom, so always interested in maximizing my focus and calm, but wondering what might be the best way for me to utilize Four Sigmatic products during the day towards that end, since I tend to just buy a bunch of things and not know how to maximize their benefits. Yeah, this is an awesome question. Thanks for asking, Sid. So let's talk about adaptogens for a moment here, because as that, you're not alone in, wanting to create a greater sense of focus, to calm the nervous system, and they actually go hand in hand. And so adaptogens, we'll just do kind of, this might be review for some of you, but adaptogens are a category of natural allies. I call them allies, right? These are our friends. They help us out in times of need, which is usually every day. That there's both plants and there's fungi within this adaptogen umbrella. And what adaptogens do is, and we could break it down deeper, but essentially they are helping our body to find a sense of balance, of equilibrium in a non-toxic, non-addictive way that is non-specific. All right, there's a lot in there, but essentially what that means is adaptogens are giving our bodies tools, and they do this on multiple different levels, whether it's through modulating our immune system, being full of antioxidant properties, supporting our HPA axis, right, and our nervous system stress response. So they all work in slightly different ways, but overall, they are balancing, they're harmonizing. And when we think about what our body is constantly doing, our body is constantly responding, right? So whether it's the air we breathe or the water we drink or the food we're eating or the stress, of driving down the street or turning on the news, our body is responding and trying to keep us in a state of balance on all levels, right? Our blood sugar, our blood pressure, our temperature, our body's like a balancing ecosystem. Okay, how can we keep things stable? And especially in a time like now where there's a lot of stress, our body is taxed, right? And we need tools to help bring our bodies back into the state of harmony, of balance. And adaptogens are premier helpers at doing exactly that, right? In a non-specific way. So that means they can either be, they have this gas brake effect, right? So they can either be stimulating or they can be kind of relaxing based on how your body is approaching them. The layman's terms is they adapt to what our bodies need. And so Sid, you are so in the right place in looking for, and you're already, if any of our Four Sigmatic products will have adaptogens in them. So our key functional mushrooms like chaga, reishi, lion's mane, those are all adaptogens. Cordyceps, like Heather asked about earlier. And then there's also many plant adaptogens, right? So are things like ashwagandha and holy basil and rhodiola. And so really know that the adaptogens are going to meet you where you're at. So what that means is you don't have to be regimented about the perfect time of day or the perfect adaptogen to take, at different hours. Know that each of them are working with your body. So you have a lot of leeway, which is really unique. This isn't the case with all of our herbs. Adaptogens really hold their own place in this balancing, equalizing, harmonizing way that they work with our body. That said, because you're expressing focus and calm, and sometimes we need like a really tangible way to access this, the two products I would recommend for you, well, really, if you could get like the focus and calm it all in one, the focus blend would be amazing. You can also steer towards products with lion's mane, right? Lion's mane is going to be that support with focus without stimulating you. And all the adaptogens are going to calm. You can look into our adaptogen blend and add that into your smoothies any time of day. You could take that morning, evening, whenever you think of it. So that could be really easy. And then start winding down your day with mushroom cacao with reishi, right? Reishi is our premier queen of mushrooms to support the stress response and allowing us to chill and relax and get into that parasympathetic state of our nervous system. But yeah, Sid, you have lots of leeway. As long as you bring adaptogens on board, you're going to be in a great place. Okay. All right. High five to nature. Yeah, Heather. Okay. Regarding the reishi and hot chocolate, I know it's supposed to help with relaxation and sleep, but does the caffeine in the chocolate counteract the sleepiness benefit? I love this question, Mary. It's like so much education here. So let's break it down. So we have mushroom cacao with reishi. Okay. So cacao is actually an adaptogen. So we so often conflate cacao and chocolate. They both come from the same place, the Theobroma cacao tree, and it's actually a seed pod or a bean that gets fermented and then processed in multiple different ways that result in it either being chocolate at the end or more of the original form, minimally processed, not exposed to a bunch of high heat, which is the cacao. And so we're using cacao, which is more the pure form, less processed, which means it has many of its antioxidants properties still in place. And what's so interesting with cacao, so we've been talking a lot about this like gas break, right? So cacao in and of itself doesn't actually contain caffeine. It contains a compound called theobromine, which molecularly is pretty similar to caffeine. So in some people, if you were to just have theobromine, you might be a little stimulated, right? Like getting into a cacao flow, that cacao state. There's a lot of kind of waking up of the body that can happen with just theobromine. But when we use, going back to like praise nature, when we use ingredients in their whole form, there's synergy. There's compounds that are working in harmony. And so what makes cacao an adaptogen is it is also one of our richest sources of magnesium. Okay, magnesium, like let's have a whole webinar on magnesium one day. It's so important. And it's the number one nutrient deficiency in the American population. Okay, so magnesium, I think of it like the cellular relaxer, right? You take an Epsom salt bath full of magnesium to relax the muscles, right? Or to calm the system. And in a case of a hormonal woman, or, it's like total relaxation. Or we take, magnesium if you're constipated, right? To relieve, and there's different forms of magnesium. So it's not all going to do the same thing. They'll target different areas of your body, but it's really allowing our bodies to unwind, to chill, to relax on a cellular level. And I think about how stressed we are as a world, and especially as a nation. And then I think, oh my gosh, we're all so deficient in this mineral that's literally allowing us to relax, right? So yeah, bringing magnesium on board is such a powerful tool for baseline, supporting your health and well-being. And cacao has both, right? So it has this theobromine and the magnesium. So it has this kind of balanced push-pull effect. And then when we add the reishi, which is our, incredible 500 milligrams of reishi extract in there, which supports, our body's ability to get out of that stress response state, to feel more calm, to relax our nervous system without putting us to sleep, right? So this isn't like you take it and you'll fall asleep. What it's doing is helping us relax the nervous system to calm down our system so that we can naturally fall asleep, right? So there's a lot going on, but the formula is designed to be taken any time of day, but even at night, right? So you don't have to worry about that there being caffeine in there. Know that the theobromine, which kind of acts molecularly similar to caffeine, is balanced by magnesium and other compounds in the cacao. That's why it's this adaptogen. Okay. I hope that helps, Mary. Okay. Oh yeah, Team Four Sigmatic. When I mentioned the product coming down the pipeline, you all will get it first, always, of course. Our everyday magicians is what we call in our members now. Okay, so let's see. Hi, Danielle. What inspired you to get into herbology? Do you find that your certification as a registered herbalist is useful for your career and personal growth? Do you think individual research and study is more useful? Any initial resources, thought leaders, influencers, or books for someone curious and learning more about adaptogens and herbology? Oh, Emily, what a wonderful question. This is what I'll say. From my perspective, there are four pillars, kind of four directions of where knowledge comes from. And you can start in any one that resonates more with you. One of them is through research, through science, right? Our current world is really heavy in that direction right now, right? It hasn't always been that way, but we're really like, show me the compounds. We want to hear about that theobromine and the magnesium and how they're responding to our HPA axis. And that's cool, right? That's one of four directions of research that I pay attention to. On the other end is tradition. How has this been used for thousands of years? This is why I love the herbs and the mushrooms so much, because for thousands of years, not only was someone like, wow, I actually didn't get sick from chaga and I felt really good. And this is what happened. And then they passed that story on to their children and their grandchildren and on and on and on for literally thousands of years, right? So there's this amazing tradition. We know from experience how the plants, how the mushrooms have been used. So that's kind of like on the opposite side. The other is, beyond tradition is clinical experience. So how do the people in your world, right? How do they react? How do they respond? What is even it could be modern day. How does that respond in a human body? So we have like the ancient lineage, the science. What's the theme in clinical trials? And the fourth, which again, these all hold equal weight, is personal experience and intuition. And I think this has been really lost. It might sound kind of heady and like out there, but really throughout time, there's a lot of times when I'll be working with clients and it's like, the research says one thing, the historical evidence says another, the current clinical trials are pointing in one direction. And yet all of that combined, pulling that, it still isn't responding in the formula isn't responding in the client's body as all of these bodies of knowledge should point to. And so you dig deep, right? And you listen to your intuition and there's amazing knowledge